This is Matt Rosen, and this is The Grit Mindset with me, your host, Matt Rosen. The mission of The Grit Mindset is to inspire and empower our listeners by delving deep into the journeys of those who have faced significant challenges and emerged stronger. Through authentic conversations, we uncover the mindsets, strategies, and lessons that have propelled these individuals to overcome adversity and achieve success. My aim is to provide actionable insights and real-world advice to help our listeners cultivate their own grit and navigate their personal and professional lives with confidence and resilience. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The Grit Mindset. I'm really excited to have this guest with us this morning. He's a friend, a mentor. With me is Larry Hagner. He's the founder of The Dad's Edge, and really excited to have him on The Grit Mindset this morning. Welcome, Larry.
What's going on, Matt? How you doing, man?
Man, it's good to have you on the show, buddy. Thanks for flying down from St. Louis just to do this.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure. Anytime I get out of St. Louis, come down to someplace cooler. That's okay.
You had to develop some grit fighting Dallas traffic just to get here, man. This place is crazy.
I did.
Well, thanks for coming on. So why don't you start by telling the guests who may not know you a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm the founder of The Dad Edge, which is a podcast. It's also, I would say, a mission movement for men out there, men, husbands, and fathers. I founded it back in, I started like in 2012, and then started the podcast back in 2015, and been podcasting and coaching men ever since. But yeah, I've got 4 boys, 19, 17, 11, and 9. Been married for actually 22 years this month, and yeah, I'll tell you, my house is like a fraternity house. Except for, it's like you just never leave. It's like Animal House.
Probably always going shopping for food. What is it, a once a day run?
Man, I always joke with my kids. They're like, "When are you going to buy a sports car?" I was like, "Whenever you stop eating." Like, because that's my sports car payment right there.
That's awesome. Well, tell us, a little bit about your upbringing and what really along the way inspired you to go off and start your own movement.
Yeah, my upbringing is probably pretty unique. I think everybody's got a story. I've interviewed 1,400 people on the podcast, and everybody's got a story. My mom and dad got married pretty young. They were about 21. They had me in 1975. So they were married for about 4 years, and then after I was born, they just went through a horrific divorce.
Oh man, that sucks.
Yeah, it does. But it was what it was. They got married young, and then my dad left. He was gone. I had no recollection of him whatsoever. In fact, I was about 5 years old, and I was in kindergarten, preschool, and I remember dads coming to pick up their kids, like my friends, and I was like, oh, so some dads wear suits and some dads wear jeans, and I knew I didn't have a dad at home. It was just me and my mom. Mm-hmm. It didn't bother me at all because in my 5-year-old brain, I thought moms go out and find dads, and my mom hadn't found a dad yet, so it was no big deal. But I'll never forget, man, the very first time my mom came home one day, and it was a Friday night, and she said, "Hey, I'm having a friend over for dinner. I work with him, and he's a very special friend, and I want you to meet him." That was her way of telling me I've been dating somebody I work with, and it's time for you to meet him. So in my mind, I still remember this, like literally like it was yesterday, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this must be the dad. Like, so this guy comes walking in, he's a white collar dad, a software engineer. He's wearing a 3-piece suit, the double Windsor tie, mustache, feathered hair. And like, I'll never forget this guy walking in my house. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that is a dad. And my mom introduced me to him. I shook his hand. And the very first thing I asked this guy is, "Are you going to be my dad?" Like, that was the first words that came out of my mouth. And I think my mom actually gasped. Like, I remember hearing it in the background, and he just like awkwardly laughed. But 6 months later, they got married. And then they were together for like 5 years. And it was great in the beginning. I think my mom like really felt this urgency to create like a family, but I don't think she ever really loved him, and their relationship was absolutely toxic, and he was a big drinker, and
oh man, that sucks.
Yeah, he abused my mom really bad. He abused me really bad. I mean, like, he beat me up, beat her up. It was pretty bad, especially towards the end. And then when I was 10, they got divorced, and he left. And it was at that time I started to ask my mom, like, wait a second, like, where did I come from? Like, this guy, like, my last name is his last name. He adopted me and everything. And my mom told me that she was married before, and I had a dad out there. I had no idea.
You just didn't remember because you're too young.
Didn't remember. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, well, where is he? What's his name? And she told me, she's like, I don't know where he is, but this is what he looks like. She showed me the wedding album. 2 years go by, and just for the sake of time, I won't go into the detail, but I had an opportunity to meet him when I was 12. And dude, that was like a serendipitous, amazing moment. Like I'm actually meeting my dad. Turns out he lived 3 miles from us. Had no idea. He was remarried, had a 2-year-old son, another one on the way. And we spent like 6 months together. And he came to all my Little League games. I called him dad. Like I was just like over the freaking moon, man. And then it was about 6 months into the relationship. Like I just noticed like there was tension and we started to kind of drift a little bit. I didn't know what was going on, but I remember picking up the phone when I was 12 and I called him and I said, hey, are we okay? Like, is everything all right? Matt, I don't even remember what was said. I just remember that was the end of our relationship. And we parted ways again. And then my mom continued to date all these just partiers, drinkers, abusers. It was always the same kind of guy. And then she got remarried one more time when I was 18. So she got married 3 times. And then it wasn't till, my dad, when he left the second time, I really fell into like a really dark spot. Like I didn't do well in school. I failed the 8th grade. I had to do 8th grade twice. But I went on to high school, went on to college, met my college sweetheart, got a great job in medical device sales. And I'll fast forward the story till I was 30. So 20 years ago, we're pregnant with our first kid. I'm sitting in a Starbucks for a business meeting. And I look up and I see this guy walk in, and who was it? It was my dad.
Wow.
Hadn't seen him since I was 12, and I knew exactly who he was.
Did he recognize you?
No, he had no clue I was even in there. And one of the women on my sales team, we were also friends, so she knew the story. And she was like, she saw this look on my face, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "It's like, yeah." I was like, my father just walked in here, and she's like, "I'm sorry, what?" And I was like, my dad just walked in here. And she's like, "Where?" And I was like, "He's over there." And she's like, "Oh my God, like, what are you going to do? What are you going to say?" And I said, "Nothing. Like, I'm not going to say anything to him. Like, there's nothing to say. Like, I barely have known him for 30 years of my life." Well, she took it upon herself to just get up off the table and walk right over to him and sit down and start talking to him. And I was like, what is about to happen? Yeah. So he comes over very humbly, shakes my hand, sits down, and we start talking. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, like, how are you doing? Like, are you married? Do you have kids?" And I was like, "I am married." And I was like, "I'm expecting my first son." He's like, "Well, we should get together." And I make him sound like a bum. He's not. He's actually a very successful entrepreneur. And he's like, "We should get together sometime." And I just remember looking at him, and I handed over my business card because at the time there were no smartphones. So I'll tell you what, I was like, "If you want to get together, here's my card. If you don't, whatever, And he sent me an email 2 days later, and it was very long-winded and very just transparent and humble. And then that turned into a breakfast, which has now turned into a 20-year relationship with him. He's still married to the same woman, has been for 45 years. I have 2 younger half brothers. But Dad Edge really got started 6 years into me being a father, and it got started in a really dark moment. And I'll just end the story here. I always wanted to be a good dad, and I just felt like I'd never had the blueprint to do it. I want to be a good husband, and I couldn't figure that one out either. I was just like, I wasn't horrible, but I wasn't good at it. I was kind of in between. And one really bad night, my 17-year-old was 4 at the time. He stepped out of line, and I always swore to myself, I was like, I'm never going to hit my children out of anger. And he stepped out of line, and I smacked him on the butt, and I smacked him pretty hard up to the point where he fell. And there's something that's really dark for a man when you hit your kid and they hit the ground, especially if they're that little. And I remember going, "Oh my God, what did I just do?" And I went to go pick him up. I was like, "Are you okay?" And he looked at me coming at him with my hands like this. And he just like shuttered his eyes like I was like this monster. And I was like, okay. I was like, this is it. Something's got to change. And then that's literally how Dad Edge got started. I started thinking, what if I just learned? Like, what if I just learned, are there skills for being a good dad? Are there skills about being a good husband? Like, just like anything else. Like, You're in the tech world. I was in the medical device space. I mean, we even had to be trained for 90 days before our companies would let us into like an OR with a surgeon. And I was like, could fatherhood be the same? Could marriage be the same? And what I've found over the past, 13 years of doing this work is it's absolutely the same. There are skills, and that's what the Dad Edge has been.
Yeah, so you didn't grow up a psychologist or anything like that. You went to college, were in the medical sales world, and just decided stopping that, going a totally different direction.
Yeah, pretty much. And I never, you grow up and you're like, I never thought I'd be a dad husband coach, but
Here you are.
But here it is, yeah.
Yeah. So what was the hardest part of that transition? I mean, obviously you had wife, 2 kids, successful medical sales career, and you decided to go an entrepreneurial path, but that was your passion. What was that like?
It quite frankly, it all happened by accident. So I started the podcast back in 2015, and I started it just because I wanted like a therapeutic hobby. I wanted to speak to people that were experts so I could learn. Never had any intention of it getting big or having a following. That wasn't the intention. It was just for me to learn. And then it was about 2 or 3 years into it, like it got really, really big, and I didn't even mean for it to be big. And then I wrote a few books, and then I officially cut the cord 5 years ago and left the medical device industry altogether.
So you overlapped for a little bit.
I did overlap for a little bit, yeah. Just because it was like a therapeutic hobby, and I just was like, I don't know if I want to do this full time. And then that calling just really, really, the volume was high to just go ahead and take the leap. So I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, we're obviously on the grit mindset, and so I ask every guest, what does grit mean to you?
What does grit mean to me? It's doing the things that you don't feel like doing, but you're going to do them despite not feel like doing them. So I'll tell you, like, grit, I think, is being able to be really calm in chaos. Because if you're a man, if you're a business owner, if you're a husband, you're a father, there's 10,000 things that come your way.
Yeah.
Right. And it's how calm can you stay in that chaotic environment. And I really think, I look at someone like, I've interviewed 38 Navy SEALs on the podcast, and there's one common theme that I think we can all take from like a Navy SEAL. I think we all look at special operations and Navy SEALs as like, wow, that's the epitome of grit and like resilience. But those guys will tell you, they're like, well, I learned how to do it. I was trained how to do it. Like, I didn't just fall into buds and pass, because like they taught us how to be gritty and how to be resilient and how to stay calm in chaos. So I think the good news for all of us is, like, a lot of us, I think, we're doomed to either we're not a gritty person, or we are, but there's actually tactical things you can learn to be more resilient and grit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thanks for sharing that. So how do you feel like the upbringing you went through prepared you for the path you're on now?
I always joke. I was like, the way it felt was like, you go to Home Depot and you buy that brand new like Pit Boss smoker, and you open up the instructions and it said, here's 100 ways not to put this together. Best of luck. You'll figure it out. That's kind of what it felt like, because like my upbringing was like, okay, I know what not to do. But here's what I found, that what we focus on grows, what we focus on expands. So if we are focusing on like, well, I'm not a very good communicator because of my upbringing, we'll continue that path, right? But I think when we focus on the things that we want versus the things that we don't want, those things will come into light. So my background felt like, here's a laundry list of what not to do. And to be quite honest, when I first got married and started having kids, I thought that was enough. And that's not enough. In fact, I think that's almost a target for you to hit, if that's what you're thinking about, because that's where the brain goes. And a lot of people are like, well, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, just think about it. If I tell you not to think of a giant pink elephant in your front yard wearing a blue cap staring at your house, whatever you do, don't think of that. We can't help ourselves. That's what we think of. Right. So even in the things that we don't want, we'll focus on those things because that's our focus. And unfortunately, those are the things that will come to fruition.
So that's why you see, I guess, the same cycles repeat themselves, because you're focused on what you learned.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, versus what you want.
So how are you helping people break out of that way of thinking? Tell us a little bit about the process. And obviously, I've been through it, and it's been very enlightening, and I've learned quite a bit working with you. But maybe for our guests, kind of share how you help people think differently and get them to be better dads and better husbands, maybe a snippet of kind of what you teach.
I think the perception, so like, let me start with the perception. That's a really good question. The perception of being a dad and a husband is, I think a lot of guys are like, well, if you really, really ask and get to the heart, they're like, well, I should be okay. I should be good at that. Like, I'm a man, and I'm married, so I should be good at being a husband. Yeah. Like, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, it's a natural thing, right?
I think so.
Right. Or like, well, I'm a dad now. I was raised by a dad. I'm surrounded by dads. So like, clearly, like, I can be a good dad. And then what happens is when we fall on our face over and over again, we're like, what is happening here? So like, you do jujitsu, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of my clients who come to me, like jujitsu is a very popular thing. So I always try to compare it to their world. And the perception is like, would you go and do, like, I want you to think back before you started jujitsu. Would you ever like enter into a tournament being like, I love jujitsu, I think I'll be good at it, I'm just going to go do this
Never, and I
tournament?
still haven't done one to this day.
Right,
Just do it to stay in shape.
Right. You would never do that. So like, what would you do first? You'd probably go roll and learn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd go roll.
Lots of
learn.
training, lots of classes, lots of sparring.
Yeah. It's probably
Before you even think about doing a tournament, which I probably still wouldn't do.
right. I mean, but 3 months, a year,
Yeah,
somewhere around there, of training, right? But here's the funny thing. We don't expect that we would be good at something like jujitsu because we like it or because other people around us do it. But that's what we expect in marriage and parenting. Like, well, I'm not going to go roll. I should just be good at this. Mm-hmm. And I want to flip that perception on its head for men and be like, if you're not good at this or you keep falling on your face, well, number one, join the club. Like, that's all of us, because we're not going to the jujitsu. We're not rolling. So, but the good news is this. Once you accept that perception of like, well, wait a second, anything that we're ever good at, we have to learn first.
Right.
So, and the good news is you can learn. So like first it's opening a guy's eyes up to that. Like if you're not good at this, it doesn't make you less of a man. It doesn't make you less of a husband or a dad. It makes you a human being who hasn't learned yet. Yeah. So like, let's go learn. Let's go put you in the jiu-jitsu studio and let's roll and let's learn some different skills on how to do it.
Got it. And maybe share with us, some inspiring stories, maybe throughout your own marriage or, other men you've coached that have really embodied this and moved forward. I'd love to hear kind of what it's meant either for yourself once you focused on it or others you've coached.
There's one person in particular that really, really comes to mind, and it's a person that's been on your podcast, and it's a mutual friend that we know, and I'm sure he probably wouldn't mind us talking, and that's Mitch.
Yeah, that's who introduced us.
That's who introduced us, and I'll tell you, Mitch has been one of the coolest success stories because I'll never forget him being on a Zoom call with him. He applied to be a part of one of our groups. I was the one who met with him, and I was like, tell me what's going on. And I saw this man sitting in like this beautiful office with all these things behind him. Like I could tell he was successful. Mm-hmm. And, he owned a large dog food company that was worth a ton. And he had 3 boys, a beautiful wife. And I was like, why are we here? What's going on? And he's like, I'm going to be selling my company. And I told my wife I'm going to be selling my company. And I was really, really happy. And it's this huge sale that means a lot to us financially. And he was like, I went home and I told my wife, and her response was, does this mean you can finally do donuts with dad at the kids' school? Like that was her response. And if you knew the amount of money he sold the company for, that wasn't the question he was expecting, And it brought him like to his emotional knees of like, I can make all this money, like, and it means nothing to the people that care about me most and I care about most. So like, for instance, for him, like, and I think a lot of us guys, what we do is we grind so hard to provide. And then what happens is we don't understand, like we're leaving them behind. So he ended up joining our group, learned all the skills that we teach around communication, connection, and with his boys and everything else. And that guy has, I just had dinner with him and his wife last night. I mean, he says, you basically saved my family. Like me learning this
incredible
stuff. And I always put it back on him. I was like, no, you did it. You're the one who saved your family. Like we just provided the skills. You're the one who said yes to it. But like that guy came in and literally soaked up every single thing that we did. He implemented it. We didn't have to push him. And he is now just completely reaping the rewards of it, like with this highly connected family. He's really connected to his boys now again. And financially it's great too, but he'll tell you that, the last thing I'll say for guys out there like this is one of my greatest mentors said, don't come home with a wallet full of money and a house full of strangers, because that's one of the hardest lives you can actually live. And that one just really rang true. So yeah, there's a story.
Yeah, I think that's challenging. I think we're brought up as men to provide, and so we get so focused on that. It's something I watched my own father do. Was so busy working, and then come home, and time would be limited. I was at least lucky to have someone at home. Dad loved us, but it was challenging that he wasn't there all that much. Didn't do the donuts with dads and things like that. And so you try and set a better example, but you think hey, if I provide more, you'll be in a better spot, and that's just not always the case.
It isn't. In fact, the kids will. It's interesting. Like, my kids will will tell you too, like, or anybody's kids, they'll be like, I don't know how much money we have in the bank account. Like, all I know is like, are my basic needs met? And then what they really want is, kids spell LOVETIME.
Yeah.
So like the more time that we spend with them, the more of that love that they'll feel. But yeah, that is the one thing though, Matt, that I definitely empathize with a man, because even though I do this work and it is my work, I'm also one of those people that can completely run myself into the ground.
Yeah.
Like for the sake of the organization or the business or helping somebody. And at times I have to pull myself back and be like, dude, time out, man. You can't be like running too far in this direction, because then you're leaving these people behind.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions. Obviously, you're supporting all these guys through your boardroom and through the regular meetups, the podcast. I know you do special events. You sound like a busy guy that's doing a lot of different things. I know you have a team, but what's been the hardest part about kind of going off on your own and at the same time being a dad and a husband?
Being a total imposter.
Tell me more about that.
Being a total imposter. So it's like, I joke with a lot of my clients and guys in our group. I was like, if you really think my life is sunshine and rainbows, you just come walk in my house. Like, you'll see me fall on my face every single day. And but I also think it's a major, it screws with my head sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm the one who, I'll spend 6 hours coaching a client on how to connect and communicate with their wife. And then I'll get off those calls and I'll suck at it, like with my own. And I'm just like, and my wife just kind of like looks at me and I look at her and I'm like, it's like, there's no words. You're just like, we both know it. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like, let me start over, but it's like, but I think it's a reminder that whether you're a student and just learning some of these things, or even if you're like, I would say I've been doing this for a decade. So like someone who's a professional at it, like as soon as you let your foot off the gas, like we're all going to be exposed to the same type of face plant, so it's like, you've got to stay sharp with it. And I know for me, I need, just as I've been in, my clients' corners, I also need people in my corner, because I've noticed when I go at it alone, oh man, life gets really messy really fast.
Yeah. Well, I think it's hard. You probably give your best to your clients, and it's like, kind of do what I do, not what I say, or what's the saying? You're coaching them, but you got to go back and practice what you preach.
You do, and it's not every day is easy to do that, but here's the good thing about it. When I do falter, which is often, I'm able to recover faster, which is good, because I'm very aware. Like, I almost joke with my wife. I was like, I can actually see me screwing up in real time. Like, I know what I'm doing and saying is total, it's like a head-on collision coming, and I don't even stop it.
Does she have higher expectations of you since you coach so many other men?
She's known me for almost 30 years. So like, she busts my chops with it. She's like, so like, she'll joke with me. Like, if I lose my patience with the kids, she's like, oh yeah, dad edge. And I'm like, stop. And I'm like, but I love that about her too. Cause it keeps the humor there, and it keeps me humble, and which is great, cause that's what you need. And it also serves a great reminder of like, you're exactly right. Okay, let me recover here real quick. So,
it's funny. My wife at one point was like, you need to treat your kids like your clients. She's like, you always take their call. You're always patient with them. You use your, slow, deep radio voice. She's like, but then you like lose your cool with them. She's like, just imagine they're your clients. And I'm trying to do that, and that's fairly effective sometimes.
It can be, yeah. Unless you got a really bad client, and then
then all bets are off.
Yeah, then all bets are off.
Well, obviously, this whole podcast is about inspiring our listeners, both men and women, to kind of take the next step, be more than where they are today. I'd be curious what you would kind of share with the audience as kind of lessons learned about kind of going off on your own, and things you might need to overcome and think about. Is what we're really trying to do here on the Grit Mindset is inspire those who want to take that first entrepreneurial step, want to ask for a raise, want to go to the next level, but maybe are unsure what they need to do to get there, maybe don't have the support group. And so that's what we're really trying to do, is extend the stories of people like yourself out to them, so that if they don't have a Larry they can call, they can at least listen to the podcast and maybe get some of that inspiration.
Yeah. So, as far as like what we have, like I always joke, I was like, I've got 1,400 episodes and a decade of podcasts that'll keep you busy for a while.
Yeah.
And then I joke with people, sorry for that first year, I was getting my feet wet, you know. But I think for, men and women, whether they're trying to start something entrepreneurial or they're trying to do something, is what I've noticed is getting into either a physical room or a virtual room where there's 3 people in that room.
Yeah.
Not 3 total people, but 3 types of people. Someone who's ahead of you, so a mentor, right? Yeah. Someone who's teaching you. Then having someone to basically spar with. So it's like jujitsu. It's like someone to roll with. It's like, okay, I'm learning from the instructor. Let me go break this down and roll with somebody. And then even that person that you're rolling with or someone that you're doing life with is just, maybe even that person's even just tiny bit ahead of you. Not nearly as much as the mentor, but just a little bit. And then the third person is someone that you're serving or teaching. Yeah. So someone who's behind you, because it just really reinforces like those lessons. And the other thing about it is I think people, if we're talking about like business and the entrepreneurial space, I think it's great to join a group that's going to help you with business. But we have more guys, and obviously we serve only guys, but we have more guys that come to our table in Dad Edge, especially the boardroom, which is our business owner group, who are just like, I need a group that is more than just business. Because like, this is great, I'm building an empire, but I can't build an empire and then leave things on the table at home. Yeah. So I know this sounds self-serving, because that's what we do. But at the same time, if it's not us, I would find a group that cultivates your business, that cultivates your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health, your marriage, and your family. Like those 4 things I think are critical. So not just one, but all 4.
Yeah, you mentioned mentors, and that's something we talk a lot about on the show. Any specific mentors that were really important in your life?
I've had a few. I had the one that told me, don't come home with a wallet full of strangers in a house, or wallet full of money in a house full of strangers. That was Aaron Walker. He was one of my greatest mentors. He's down in Nashville. He's been in a mastermind with Dave Ramsey for 30 years. Oh. Him and Dave have been friends ever since before Dave was even on the radio. And he was one of my greatest mentors, and he taught me exactly what we just said. Yeah. He's like, you can never, ever go build success without building a family. So that was one. One of, I think, my greatest mentors was also a Navy SEAL by the name of Mark Devine, who really helped me understand how limiting beliefs can absolutely derail you and how to overcome those. Like he wrote a book on it called Unbeatable Mind. Mm-hmm. But his mentorship was absolutely outstanding as well. And then the last one, just because I'm a faith-based guy, I love John Eldredge. John Eldredge writes books for men. Wild at Heart is one of his biggest books. But he is just such a great guy, and he talks about men need 3 things. They need a battle to fight, an adventure to be had, and a beauty to love. And I think that's just soul giving to a man.
Yeah, love that. That's great. Well, it sounds like they all had a profound effect on who you are here today.
Yeah.
Well, we covered a lot of ground, all the way from childhood through marriage to going from, reconnecting with your dad to starting the Dad's Edge. Are there some things that we didn't cover that you feel would be important to share? I always like to ask, what didn't I ask you about that I should have?
The only thing that I would love to just point the direction of your audience to. So I have a book coming out on September 16th this year called The Pursuit of Legendary Fatherhood. And there's a way that they can pre-order it now. So if you go to the dadedge.com/legendary book, all one word, they can pre-order it. And I'm giving away, I have 2 courses, one for creating more patience with your kids. So like that grit and patience and resilience. I could use that one. Yeah, my gosh, so did I. I teach 6 skills in that course of how to be more patient with your kids. And then I created another course called Extraordinary Marriage, which there's 11 communication connection skills in that course. So if you pre-order the book for $28, you'll get free access to those. So yeah, that's coming out September 16th. And just a really quick funny story about the title. The publisher that I was originally going through, he wasn't married, no kids. And he's like, Pursuit of a Legendary Fatherhood, is that the title? I said, yeah, that's going to be the title.
That's a great title.
Well, you're a dad, so you get it. Yeah. And he goes, why not just call it Legendary Fatherhood? And I go, you're obviously not a dad. You would know that there's no such thing. There's the pursuit of it. There's the constant growth of it. The pursuit of keeping, the blade sharp, at all times, the knowledge, the things that you gather, because around every corner, there's another challenge. There's another lesson you're going to have to learn. So no one gets to the top of the mountain and says, look, I did it. I'm a legendary father, but there's the pursuit of it.
Yeah, it's constant work. Well, we'll make sure we link to all this on the Grit Mindset sites. So with that, we're about out of time, but I just want to thank you for making the time and effort to come down here and be on the Grit Mindset. It means a lot. Thanks for being a coach and mentor to me. For those listeners, Larry shared a lot of great stuff with us. We'll provide some resources where you can find him, find his courses, find his new book that's coming out. I'm going to be ordering a copy of that myself. So for all our listeners out there, until next week's episode, this is Matt Rosen signing off. Stay gritty out there.